So one of the things I really like about how Ford set this up is that let's say that you've got your phone connected to the system and you use Android Auto, or I guess Apple CarPlay would be the same kind of situation, but I have an Android. So let's say I'm using Android Auto and then I decide I don't want Android Auto. I'm not going to be using it for the next couple of weeks. I don't want it to kind of take control of the system or whatever. Well, on my previous trucks, it was either all or nothing, like that Ram 1500 Laramie that I had, for example. If I had my phone connected, it would automatically upload or start with Android Auto screens as soon as I got in the truck every time, and there was no way to disable it. Trust me, I tried. I called Ram customer service. I went through all of my settings on my phone. I tried everything. It wasn't going to work. The only way I could get Android Auto to not, automatically come up and take control every time I got in the truck was to fully disconnect my phone from the system, which meant that if I decided one particular day that I wanted Android Auto, I'd have to go through the whole menu and set the phone back up again from scratch. Well, the way Ford has this set up is you can go in here to your phone list, and there's my phone, and right here, this button, I can hit that button and then Android Auto is active. I can hit that button again and it's not active. So like, for example, let's say, go back over here to navigation. You can see that now it's on the Ford, preloaded nav, right? And then like, if you wanted to go back over there and turn on Android Auto, you just hit that button and then you would see Google Maps in there instead. So obviously what that means is once I've got my phone connected in here and set up in here, I can leave it set up in here and I can choose with one simple button press whether or not I want to be aggravated by Android Auto popping up every time I get in the truck, or do I just like the pre-baked in sync or whatever Ford calls this, the Ford system, which actually I kind of do like this better most of the time. I personally think Android Auto can be kind of annoying, and that's why that's a big deal to me. So anyway, I do appreciate that. This system, in my opinion, because I came from Uconnect, I've had a long line of like Chrysler branded vehicles, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, with the Uconnect systems, and they are the best in the industry for most things. And so this was more difficult for me to get used to. But as far as its integration with Android Auto and all that, I like this a whole lot better. I think Ford did a much, much better job setting that up so that you can, like I said, you can just go here to your vehicle, there's your phone, and you can tell it, to these like phone calls and texts, music streaming, navigation, Android Auto, all that stuff. You can kind of pick and choose which things you want it to draw in here automatically when you get in the truck. So anyway, enough rambling about that, but I really like how Ford set that up. Now that I'm used to this system, I really like it. I'm still not a big fan of the HVAC controls being electronic down here. That still drives me nuts. I would much, much, much prefer to have physical buttons for all of the HVAC controls, but I'm making do with it. It's not that big of a deal, I guess. I'm also still not a big fan of the shifter. It's just, since it's electronic, there's no physical action going on underneath the console when you shift. It's all electronic. I don't understand the concept of having this big clunky shifter here. It's not very responsive. It's just one of those things you have to use it for a while and you'll see what I'm saying. It's a real pain. If you're going to have something that's totally electronic, there's no reason to have this. They should just do the dial like they do on some of their other vehicles, and they should put the dial up here instead of a coin holder, which nobody really uses much anymore. And that way you'd have all of this space free, kind of like Ram's been doing for years. Put a rotary shifter up here, and then you free up all this space down here. That's what they should have done. I guess they're trying to keep some traditional feel here, but it's just not a responsive shifter, and so it kind of loses all of that in the effect. But anyway, I'm not a big fan of that either. I added a wireless charge pad down there. I don't know if, there you go, you can see. And, you know, some of the trucks, this trim level used to come with it standard, but some of the higher trim levels still come with a charge pad down there standard. This one did not. Yeah, that was one of the cost-cutting measures that Ford apparently made in job number 2 for the 2025 model year on this flash trim level, is getting rid of that. So I just added that. I already had that. I've had that thing for years. But I just laid that down in there and plugged it in, and now I can just lay my cell phone down in there and charge it. So that's not too big of a deal. But yeah, as far as the interior goes, the shifter I'm not a fan of, and not having physical HVAC buttons I'm not a fan of. Everything else in this interior is pretty fantastic. It's comfortable, it's roomy, it looks really good. Ford did a great job on the aesthetics in here. Got nice soft touch materials everywhere. I really like this two-tone looking stuff over here. I mean, everything is great in the interior of this truck. I really, really do like it a lot. I think Ford did a great job on the interior in these F-150s. Just a couple of little things that they could fix. All right, so I've had this truck for 2 months now. I've put over 2,000 miles on it, and I thought it would be a good time to give you some thoughts on this F-150 Lightning pickup truck. So like you've already seen, if you've been following the channel for a while, I've had a whole lot of mid-size and full-size and heavy-duty full-size trucks that have gasoline and diesel engines. We've had Jeeps and everything else on this channel over the years. And so this is obviously the first time I've had an electric vehicle on the channel. And I thought I would try it out because I've been intrigued by these for a few years. And so this is a great opportunity for me to have one of these trucks here on the property and to use it every day and, you know, see if it can actually replace a more traditional truck like we're all used to. So a couple months in, and I have to tell you that what I am finding is that I love this truck more than I expected to. I really do. It's a great truck. Now, obviously it's still brand new and you would expect it to have zero problems, but you'd be surprised these days how many brand new vehicles have problems like right off the bat from all the brands. So unfortunately, we're kind of in a spot in the automotive industry right now where brand new does not always mean flawless. And so I'm happy to report that this truck, 2 months in, has been flawless. No check engine lights, no concerns whatsoever. It's been a great truck. Now, my wife and I have used this truck quite a bit to haul things. The front up here, as they call it, has been genuinely useful. I've had a lot of stuff in here on multiple occasions. And so I like that because this truck has a 5.5 foot cargo bed on it, right? The F-250 that I traded for this truck had a 6 3/4 foot cargo bed back there. So I lost over a foot of length on the cargo bed back there. I lost a good amount of square footage, or cubic footage rather, of cargo space. So with the frunk up here, this really makes up for that. You know, I've got the short box back there, but I've got this space up here to kind of make up for the loss. So I really like that. I find that that basically means that I can haul the same amount of stuff with this truck that I could with the F-250 Super Duty. So that's been pretty fantastic. The range on this truck has been great. Now, I'll get to this in just a minute, but the weather's been perfect since I've had the truck, okay? I bought this, or leased this thing back in August. It's October now. So we're in that time of the year where the weather's perfect, okay? So that has a lot to do with the efficiency and the range being so great. So we'll see what happens later. But so far, the efficiency has been fantastic on this truck. I'm finding 2 months into this that I'm getting really used to not having to go to the gas station, not having to fight my way through the traffic, find an open pump, you know, especially with the diesel truck because it's harder to find diesel. You know, not all the stations sell diesel, basically. There's a fraction of the number of diesel pumps versus gasoline pumps around here where I live. So you pull into the gas station, pull up to the diesel pump. Usually there's somebody sitting there that doesn't even have a diesel vehicle. You got to wait on them. Sometimes guys make a mess of the diesel pump, so I got to put gloves on or get one of the paper towels and clean it off or whatever. $100 every time I would fill up that truck, you know, just on and on and on. I don't have to do any of that anymore. And I'm getting really used to that. I'm getting to the point where I think it's going to be difficult when the time comes to go back to doing that again, you know? So, you know, obviously with this truck, I've got the charge station set up here at home. Whenever I get home and I think, you know, I'm done for the day, I'm not going anywhere till tomorrow, I just plug the truck up right here at home. No mess, no fuss, nobody sitting there, you know, parked in front of the pump, you know, and I got to sit there and wait on them. None of that stuff anymore. I just, when I get home, I pull in the garage or pull in the barn. I know I'm done for the day, so I plug the truck up. The next morning, I've got a whole week of range all over again. I mean, that honestly, that is pretty daggone nice. I'm getting really used to that. That's easy to get used to. So that's been pretty awesome on this truck too. I have done so many different things with this truck that I would do with any other truck, and it has been a champ at it. We've gone on trips with it, down toward the Tennessee state line, over to Louisville, Kentucky this past weekend. We've been a lot of different places in the truck. I do all of the same things with this that I've done with every other gas and diesel truck I've ever had. And so now my mind is at ease, and I no longer have that range anxiety, as they call it, or that fear of having an electric vehicle. You know, all of that is gone 2 months into this, and I just really appreciate what this truck is. So I guess the moral of the story is I'm really happy with it, and I love it more than I expected. It's been pretty fantastic. The power is phenomenal. If you want to go out and rip down the road, you know, and drive aggressively, it's pretty impressive. When I hook this big trailer onto it, it feels just like a deleted and tuned diesel truck. You know, all the power that those trucks had, this feels just like that. You can barely tell the trailer's back there, you know, in terms of performance. Now, range is a different ballgame. We'll get to that in a minute. But in terms of performance, it's fantastic. You won't find very many half-ton trucks anywhere in this country that perform better than this. There are only a handful. So I really, really do like this package. I like what Ford has done here. And like I said before, I appreciate the fact that they kept this as much traditional F-150 as they could. I think that was a great call on their part. So needless to say, I really love this thing, and I think it's going to be great. Now, having said all of that, I'm going to hold my final thought on it for a few more months. And the reason why is because, like I said, the weather's been perfect. I mean, like right now, it's 73 degrees and sunny out here. Can't get any better. What I want to see for myself is, how does this truck handle winter? You know, I live in Kentucky. I know people up north get a whole lot worse weather than we do. But we do get some pretty fierce weather here. I mean, every winter it goes below zero. In the last several years, we've had temperatures down around 15, 20 degrees below zero. We've got ice storms that knock out electricity for days. We've got snowstorms. They put all kinds of junk all over the roads, trying to clear the roads up. I mean, we do have some harsh, fierce winter around here. And I want to live through winter with this truck and see how it's going to do. Specifically, I want to know how much efficiency and range am I going to lose when the weather gets really cold and nasty out here? How bad is it going to be? Is the cabin going to be nice and toasty on those really cold winter days when the wife and I hop in here to go somewhere? Can we get nice and toasty and warm? How is it going to handle snow? You know, this is the first truck I've had in 28 years that doesn't have a high-low range traditional transfer case, you know, like a real four-wheel drive system. This thing obviously is just a single speed, and it's just an all-wheel drive system that's mainly controlled by electronics and software. So how's it going to do when the snow gets bad out here? You know, there's some things that I just want to know that I'm going to have to just experience myself and live through winter with this truck and find out. So when we get back to, say, late February, early March, I'll give you my final verdict on what I think about this truck. We'll see how it handles winter. But for the time being, you know, summer and now into fall, this thing is fantastic. So, again, I know there's a lot of skepticism about these EVs. I was one of them. I really don't think that you should be all that skeptical about them. If you're somebody who uses your truck for work and you drive a lot of miles every day, let's say you put 200 or 300 miles every day on your truck and you're going all over the place all the time to job sites or whatever, then I don't think this would be a good choice for you. It's doable. There are people who do it, but it would be too much of a hassle, I think, because you're going to have to go find public charging stations out and about somewhere. And that's just going to be more of a hassle and put a crimp in your workday. But the average guy who's just towing every once in a while and commuting quite a bit and going to church and going to school and going shopping and going to the grocery store and places that we go in our vehicles, you know, and on the weekends, maybe you pull a camper or a boat or whatever, utility trailer, something like that, you know, just typical usage. This is fine. It's absolutely great for that. And so you shouldn't have any concerns about that. Now, one more thought that I'll leave you with on this F-150 Lightning. So this truck came out in the 2022 model year. All right. The 2026 models are being ordered right now as I shoot this video, and they will be hitting dealerships pretty soon, right? So that's 5 model years that this truck will have now been on the road, okay? So you've got 5 model years of this truck out there, or will have very shortly. From everything that I'm seeing, they're probably going to sell this truck again in 2027. And then that's going to be it. Okay, the replacement for this truck was supposed to be out this year, but due to everything going on and politics and everything else, they have decided to kind of back that off a little bit. So it looks like the replacement for the F-150 Lightning is going to come out as a 2028 model. That's the way it looks right now. So they will probably sell this truck through 2027 and then pull the plug on it. No pun intended. So what that means is this truck will have been on the road for 6 model years, and there will be maybe 150,000, maybe 200,000 of these total that have been sold, I think. I mean, you can double check my numbers, but I think it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark, 150,000 to 200,000 total over those 6 model years. So what that means is, and what I'm trying to get to is, this truck going forward, let's say 5 years down the road, and especially 10 years down the road, this truck's not going to be a rare vehicle, but it's not going to be a plentiful vehicle either. You know, I mean, you're not going to see a whole bunch of these out on the road 10 years from now. And so if you're one of these guys who buys a truck with the idea that you're going to keep it forever, you're going to, 15, 20 years down the road, you're still going to be driving it. Personally, I don't think that's a good plan because, obviously this thing is all electronic. It's got a lot of software in it, a lot of electronics. The whole thing is just wiring and modules and a battery pack and electronics, software. It's just like a video game system or TVs or anything else where technology advances really quickly, right? So I think that this is going to be obsolete 5 years down the road. This will probably be obsolete, much less 10 years down the road. And so the point is, if you buy one of these and you're thinking that you're going to keep it for 20 years, you might end up having some problems because let's say the battery pack loses a module and has to have a new module. 10 years from now, do you think you're going to be able to find that specific module? I seriously doubt it. I mean, the chemistry that they used on this battery pack is already almost outdated. They're already looking at the next thing that they're going to use to have, more efficiency, more range, and all of that. The next step in battery technology. They're already working on that right now. So this particular battery, 10 years from now, it's going to be hard to find modules for it, I bet. The electric motors front and rear. Do you think that specific electric motor is still going to be easy to find 10 years from now? Probably not. What about that big 15-inch screen in there that controls everything? Without that 15-inch screen, you can't do anything with this truck. If that thing fails 10 years from now, are you going to be able to find one? Maybe on eBay or something. But I very seriously doubt you're going to be able to walk into a Ford dealership and get one. So with this truck only being produced for 6 model years and a fraction of
total F-150 sales are electric vehicles. I just feel like maybe long term, this would be a bad investment. And that's why I think it's such a good thing to lease. Like if you want to drive one of these and use one, do what I did and lease one. Drive it for a few years, enjoy it. And then by the time you get to the end of the lease, the next step in this technology will probably be available. I think that's the way to go with these. And I believe a lot of people probably look at it that way, which could explain why the resale value on these is so atrocious. But anyhow, that's one thought that I've had about this. And again, it doesn't matter to me because I don't keep stuff for 20 years anyway, but I know a lot of people do, and so I just wanted to mention that. You need to think about that kind of thing. A gasoline truck, that's not such a big deal, because you can keep those on the road forever. I've got a 2005 F-150. It's now 20 years old, sitting right up here behind the camera, and my son drives it every day. That thing's got 230 something thousand miles on it and 20 years of age, and you can still walk into an auto parts store and buy parts for that thing cheap. So you're not going to be able to do that with this truck, or really any electric vehicle for that matter. So that's an unfortunate thing about them, is the fact that they're so tech based is going to prevent these things from being vehicles that you can keep forever. But anyway, I digress. So everything else about this truck, I really love it, and it's been great so far. I'm going to keep running these Goodyear tires for a while. We'll see how they do this winter. They look like they've got a pretty decent tread on them. Now, I've noticed that some of these trucks don't have the Goodyear Wranglers on them from the factory. Some of them have a Hankook all-terrain tire, but it's not really an all-terrain tire. It looks just as mild as this, if not more so. But these have been fine so far. I've had them in the rain a couple of times and they're doing all right. We'll see how they do this winter. They've held up to the gravel and the rock that I drive on all the time out here so far. So we'll just keep an eye on these and see how they wear over time and how they perform. And obviously I've decided to keep running these factory wheels with them too. Thought about ditching those because I'm not a big fan, but hey, it's all brand new stuff. It's a lease. I'm just going to keep it like it is and enjoy it. It is what it is. So F-150 Lightning, 2 months in, it's been great. All my fears are gone. I think the Ford Power Promise has been extended to January of 2026, and that is a fantastic promotion. So if you're going to buy or lease one of these trucks, make sure you ask your dealership about that, because getting that level 2 charge station installed at your house for you for free is a huge deal, because like I said, that enables me to just plug this thing up when I get home at night. The next morning, I've got 300 miles of range again, instead of waiting 2.5 days to charge it up on a level 1. So definitely ask about that. They're going to extend that for several more months here. And I have heard that the federal tax credit, even though it's officially ended now, I've heard that some of the dealerships and some of the automakers are working on plans to try and keep offering that for a while. Obviously, they're going to be like subsidizing that themselves, but they're going to try and keep that going for a while, as long as it's feasible to do so, to try and entice people to get more of these trucks, and clear out the inventory. So if you're interested in F-150 Lightning, you can ask your dealer about that. I'm sure they'll give you all the info on it. But yeah, great truck. It's got the tow hooks down there, which might come in handy for me this winter. We'll see. I'm glad that they put that on there. You'd be surprised how many trucks these days don't have tow hooks on them. But I think they've got a hit here. I really do. Good job, Ford, on this F-150 Lightning. I'm glad that I decided to try it when I did. The deals were fantastic. And I'll give you another update this winter. It won't be too much longer now until the snow starts flying around here. So I'll let you know this winter how it's going. But for now, that's another update on the F-150 Lightning. I'm trying to decide. This is the thing I forgot to mention. The one drawback to this truck is if you're going to go on a long trip with a trailer behind you or a camper or whatever. That's the one drawback here. Now, if you get the GM Silverado EV, they've kind of solved that problem because they give you a much larger battery pack. And so those trucks will go 150, 175 miles with a trailer like that behind them before you have to stop and charge again, which would be the sweet spot for me. That would be perfect for me. The problem is it's a GM product, so it's junk. It's ugly as sin, and they're more expensive than the F-150 Lightning. So mark that off the list. But man, I really wish that Ford would have put a bigger battery pack in this truck, because if this thing would go 150 miles or more on a charge with that trailer behind it, it would be absolutely perfect. It would be the perfect truck then. But as it stands, that's the one drawback to this thing, is that it just doesn't make it very far down the road when you're towing. And so I'm trying to decide, is it worth it? I know it's doable. But is it worth the hassle to try and hook this up, load it all up with our camping stuff, head down the road to our favorite campsite? I know I'm going to have to stop at least 3 times, maybe 4 times, and spend 45 minutes charging at each stop just to get to our campsite. Is it worth the hassle? That's what I'm trying to decide right now. I know it's doable, but do I want to do it? You know, it's such a shame, because if I could do 2 stops instead of 4, then it wouldn't be such a big deal. Then you're adding an hour and a half to your trip. Not a big deal. But you know, when you start talking about adding 4 stops going down there, 4 stops coming back home, that's going to be a little bit aggravating, I think. So I don't know. Might do it here in a couple of months, but I'm still trying to decide if it's worth the hassle or not. It's a shame, because otherwise this thing is awesome. All right, now I'm done. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.